Well, hey there, boys and girls, ladies and gents, theys and theirs. This is Tara Shapansky from the Polish American Brotherhood and Adam Francisco from Be Free My Sheeple. And you're listening to the T&A Show, the Tara and Adam Show. Well, hey there, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Season 2. Today is Cara Castronuova as our guest today. She is the co-founder of the Citizens Against Political Persecution. Cara, thank you so much for joining us today, and let's kick it off. Can you tell our audience about yourself?
Hey, thanks for having me, Tara. So yes, I'm the founder of Citizens Against Political Persecution, and I'm a former boxer. I think that's where I got all of this crazy fight in me to be fighting for freedom. I also founded a group called Liberate New York as well, which was fighting the shutdowns. And right now, the vaccine mandate's going on here in New York. And so that's me. I'm an investigative journalist. I write for Gateway Pundit, and I also am on a show on Newsmax called Wise Guys on Saturday nights at 10 p.m. So you guys could check that out, please. It's called Wise Guys, 10 p.m. Newsmax, and I believe we also are now on at 1:30 p.m. on Sundays. And I also write for American Gulag, which is covering and documenting all the atrocities that are going on right now in Washington, D.C. at what we call D.C. Gitmo, which is Washington, D.C. jail, where all the detainees, or the majority of the detainees, are being held right now that were arrested for crimes on January 6th.
Thanks for that introduction. You definitely pack a punch. Can you tell us, I was reading through some of the atrocities that the detainees of January 6th are experiencing. Could you describe for our audiences really how difficult the situation is and what constitutes political persecution for those who don't understand?
So yes, I became more familiar with the cases of a lot of the detainees from January 6th back in, I'd say, March or April, actually through reading a Gateway Pundit article. That's why I'm so honored to write for them now. And really felt for some reason that I had to do something for these guys who couldn't speak for themselves because they were being held in solitary confinement and really had no access to the outside world. So we started doing rallies. And thank you so much, Tara. You were always there live streaming them so more people could see them. So thank you so much for that. Giving awareness to America that there are political prisoners in the United States right now, which is most people didn't believe when we told them. It was literally so foreign to people's ears. There are political prisoners in the United States that are being held without bail and being treated literally like domestic terrorists. Some of these guys were literally just at the Capitol. Maybe they walked into the building through open doors. Some of them weren't even in the building, and they're being held right now, again, with no bail in DC jail. A lot of them trial dates are not even set yet. They're saying they're looking at trial dates in 2022 and 2023, based totally, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions, on their political affiliation. It's not due process, and it's not equal protection under law when you have, and you know more than anyone about this, Tara, you have looting, rioting all around the country, people committing very similar quote unquote crimes, breaking into buildings, federal buildings, and these people are getting off basically with a slap on the wrist when you have guys who, were there at the Capitol that day that are literally now being held with no bail and being treated very badly. So that's not the America that I remember living in. I don't know if it's something new that's transpired since the Biden administration came about, or it's just always been this unfair. It's something that I'm trying to figure out. But all I know is that it's not right.
I saw a story on Tim Pool recently where one of the January 6th detainees basically came out and then publicly disavowed Trump, and he was then released from jail. So to me, it seems like the re-education camps have already arrived here in the U.S.
Right. It's totally true. I'm hearing off the record from many attorneys who, as part of the plea bargain, a lot of these guys are getting offered, a plea bargain, but they have to agree to never say there was election fraud again. And certain things they're not allowed to say anymore. So it's like the thought police. So they have to basically agree to crazy restrictions on their speech in order to get out of jail. And a lot of them don't want to do it. But that's just something I've been hearing in the background.
And I also heard that some of them, to get like lesser sentences or whatever they're called, have to get vaccinated as part of that deal. And, as you know, the vaccination thing has become a bit politicized in this country. So I would imagine someone who really doesn't want to get the vaccine being told they have to, that's a form of physical violation for your freedom.
Yeah, it's coercion. Coercion is not choice.
Right. That's in a way that could almost be like torture to somebody who's like really morally or religious or ethically or whatever it is against it.
No, totally. I know that I've spoken to the guys in there constantly, and I think only 2 or 3 of them are vaccinated. The other ones they don't want the vaccine, which is their medical freedom, and because of that, they're treated very badly. The ones that don't get the vaccine, if that's possible, to be treated worse than they already are. But they're, obviously banned from seeing any visitors. If they do get a visit with their attorney, which they're finally able to get, before they weren't even allowed to get visits, even if the attorney is vaccinated and shows that they have no COVID by taking a test right before visiting, the guy still in jail still has to go into a 14-day quarantine in a solitary confinement cell if he gets a visit from his lawyer, which is making these guys not even want to get a visit from their lawyer, which is not due process, because they don't want to get thrown into a cell away from everybody else for 14 days. So it's crazy what they're trying to coerce them to do. And just the unvaccinated guys can't get haircuts. So they're basically look like, they have beards out to hair out to here. They weren't allowed to get haircuts at all at the beginning. And now they're saying, well, if you get vaccinated, you'll be able to get a haircut. But like I said, they don't want to get vaccinated. Most of them in there have common sense and don't feel like they need the vaccine. So it's sad.
I just want to, while we're on the topic of vaccines, just to make sure that we show YouTube compliance with their guidelines. Here it comes. We know what's coming now.
We're not violating YouTube community standards.
So here we go, guys. For countervailing views on COVID-19 as well as the vaccines, please contact cdc.gov, fda.gov, who.int. Remember, guys, they are the authority figures when it comes to this kind of stuff. And make sure to get vaccinated and talk to your doctor. So there you go. We just gave our countervailing view disclaimer. Now we should be okay.
And also, Trump did not win the election.
Trump did not win the election. There's no evidence of voter fraud. Biden won fair and square.
Yeah. There was absolutely no stolen election.
And there is no border crisis. The border walls are,
that doesn't
the
exist.
border's strong. Everything is
we have a very strong border right now.
And inflation's a myth.
Yeah, absolutely. So YouTube, I hope that satisfies that we are showing compliance. Do not get kicked out of this community.
Exactly.
And that's the unfortunate part of it. We have to, in order to stay within this community, we do have to because it's the town hall. And Cara, you were telling us just before we jumped on the censorship that you're experiencing and the impact that's going to have also on your job. Can you tell us more about that?
I will. And just to go back to what you were saying too with YouTube, it's like you guys have to give the counter narrative, but you don't see people who believe the opposite of what you guys believe, giving a counter narrative, saying maybe you should check with your doctor. Maybe, the vaccine, there has been studies, they don't have to give that disclaimer, which I find to be very interesting and very unbalanced. But yes, I am experiencing, I'm going through it myself with Facebook. Facebook I've been on for 15 years and I don't really use it for any type of political stuff. More or less, I'll post a story or I'll advertise a rally that I'm organizing or part of. But mostly I use it for my business, which I do real estate as one of my jobs, and to keep in contact with family, friends, and stuff who aren't really into the politics and who aren't really into the activism. And to be disabled from Facebook, which I woke up on, I believe it was September. It was at the end of September. No, it was only a few weeks ago in October, to see that I couldn't sign into my account and it was completely disabled. And when I went to go appeal the decision, it said this decision is final because you violated community standards, and giving no explanation whatsoever, no way that I could contact Facebook. I had so many pictures saved on there, so many videos. So I encourage anybody that has a Facebook account to back it up. I heard there's a feature where you could back up your account and save all your property, all your intellectual property, because they will literally take it from you and they don't care, and you'll have no recourse if we're having a dissenting opinion. I'm very respectful in my speech. I'm never rude. I'm never condescending. I always trying to call for unity. As you know, Tara, I've done rallies, and I've actually let people from Black Lives Matter, and I've reached out to Antifa, even trying to create unity. That's just the type of person I am, because I don't, that's what the government wants. They want us to fight with each other. So I've always been the type of person who's calling for unity. And for me to just get thrown off Facebook, it's scary, because who knows what social media platform is next. I've heard horror stories of people that once you get canceled from one, you get canceled from the next. Then they start attacking your banking and your Airbnb and anything else that makes you live a normal life, because they want to shut you up. And it all came after this crazy fake Facebook whistleblower. I think they did another big cleanup of Facebook. And it's really, it's sort of like mental terrorism, I feel, because you're literally being cut off from the world. People are texting me, "Are you okay?" They think I'm literally dead or something, because I'm not on Facebook anymore. Facebook is showing when someone messages me on Facebook Instant Messenger, that it looks to them like I blocked them. So I'm getting messages from people, "Did you block me?" And these are people that are business associates. So it's really like crippling me, or can cripple me financially if I don't find a way around it. They've made themselves so they're a monopoly, and so that they're the go-to for the public when it comes to basic stuff. So they're really taking advantage of this monopoly that they have and this power that they have over the people. And now they're using it just to basically punish people for having a voice, for having an opinion, for people that they view as a threat. And it's scary. It has to be challenged successfully. I know people have sued Facebook before, but it really needs to come to a point where they're demonopolized, and where people speak out even for people that they don't agree with. Because if it's me today, the pendulum could swing tomorrow, and you will be censored next and taken off, and you will lose all your intellectual property. You will lose your photos and your videos. It's such a huge problem that a lot of middle America, and I think people who aren't really involved in politics, don't realize, and they don't realize how it's going to affect them in the future.
Yeah, like my question is, who gave Facebook this right? Like, who voted them in to have this much control of our society? Because the stuff you just mentioned is super scary. They block you, and then all of a sudden, all of your work associates and friends think that you deleted them. And now you have to basically tell them and explain and ask for forgiveness that you didn't even do anything wrong in the situation. And then what also scares me is, think about how Facebook, whenever you sign on to any third-party platform, whether it's Airbnb or even some games you might play on your phone, you usually connect through your Facebook account. So when they disable since you've experienced that, what happens to those platforms? Like, can you not sign on to Airbnb anymore?
I can't sign on a new account? I haven't tried to start on Airbnb to sign on Airbnb since, but you don't realize just how powerful Facebook is. I mean, we all know that, but until you can't use certain features, they've literally interjected themselves into like every part of society. Like you said, you use Facebook to sign on to a lot of different things, and people think, wow, this person must have done something really wrong if they got deleted off Facebook. And I'm talking about your average business contacts. They think they judge you. And it's defamation of character, and that's exactly what it is, and that's what I'm going to sue them for, defamation of character. Because by getting kicked off Facebook, that's like Facebook telling the world that this is a dissident, this is a person you don't want to associate with. They're defiling your character. They're not telling you why. So I actually was speaking to Zach Voorhees, the Google whistleblower, at a convention recently, and he was telling me that the secret is suing them for defamation of character, because then they have to come to court and prove why they're actually. What are their community standards that you violated? And they may not want to show that in court, because they don't want their algorithm to show and just show how biased and ridiculous it is. So that was a suggestion he made. He's like, even if it's in small claims court, just file it yourself. They're going to have to send somebody to show up to court. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing a little more research on that, and hopefully can help in any small way from this happening to anybody else in the future, because it's really the people I spoke to that this happened to. I was at a convention in Tennessee, a medical freedom convention, and it was like the canceled, the who's who of the canceled. Roger Stone was there, Dr. Judy Mikovits, just a lot of doctors that speak out about Del Bigtree. And, someone like Del Bigtree has found a way to be successful, even though he's completely canceled. And these people, but a lot of the members of the audience were also canceled people just for retweeting stuff, just for reposting stuff. And they say, like, it's very traumatizing to get kicked off social media. It's almost like, I would assume, like back in the 1800s, when you kind of get thrown out of society and you're like on the outskirts of society and nobody wants to talk to you. They think you're like, that's kind of the feeling that you have, because that's just the impression that people get once you're taken off social media. And I mean, people that are your next door neighbor, your cousin, your high school friends. They're like, wow, yeah, maybe I should never repost anything she puts out again, because I don't want to get my account taken down.
Before you were thrown off of Facebook and sent to the digital gulags, Did you ever get any warnings from Facebook? Did they give you any warnings?
No, and that's why I was so confident. I'm like, wow, I must be doing something right because I've never been in Facebook jail. I never got a warning.
I mean, yeah, me
And I'm like,
neither.
wow, my speech never, right? And then all of a sudden to get disabled, and this has happened to quite a number of people. It's like they literally give you no reason. But I never got a strike because I don't do it. I'm just not the type of person that has it in me to like, go back and forth fighting with people. I'm very careful when I say things pertaining to things that people are sensitive about, like race, like gender and stuff like that. I'm very socially liberal, so I don't even think I've ever said anything that was offensive to anyone. And I don't, so the only explanation is Citizens Against Political Persecution, standing up for people's due process rights, and the fact that I've, always been against any type of government overreach, like the vaccine mandate and like the closure of New York. And I've organized rallies because of that. And because I was a Trump supporter, I've organized Trump rallies. I'm still a Trump supporter. I was speaking out against the election and for election integrity, but I always carefully chose my words. And that's why this came as such a shock. Because I thought, I'm like, wow, Facebook hasn't taken me down. They've never given me a strike. So for them to do this out of the blue, it's very personal. It's a personal attack.
It was also recently Instagram. I just saw like a wave of a bunch of people being losing their link abilities, losing their accounts, and without warning or without explanation. So since Facebook and Instagram are both related, this is probably part of their sweep after the whistleblower had come out. I've gotten tons of strikes on Facebook, and that's pretty much why I don't use it very much anymore, because I used to do a lot of live streaming on it. And
so I don't know if you guys could see there. Wait, I had it for a second.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, this is the message you get when sometimes, I don't know, it's not showing up now, but it basically is a notification that you guys can't read it right now. But if you try to add certain accounts, including my account, Adam Francisco, you get a notification that says can't tag. Adam Francisco right can't be tagged because it has, they also call me an it. That's not my pronouns. Come on, Facebook. It has repeatedly posted content that goes against our community guidelines on false content about COVID-19 or vaccines. And that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
This has been coming for so many people's accounts now, which is crazy.
It was a sudden sweep of a bunch of accounts that I saw on Instagram. Mm-hmm. Like when I got all my strikes on Facebook, I was never disabled. I just was banned from live streaming it was just back to back to back for almost like 8 months that I lost my will to use Facebook very, very much anymore. But it sounds like they targeted you personally for where you stand. It's political persecution.
It totally is. And that's what I always say. Political persecution is, obviously these guys are the ultimate example of political persecution in DC jail, but there's so many other types of political persecution, whether it be in the workplace, whether it be censorship on social media, for your political views. Literally, it's such a problem in America. And it's crazy to me still that your political affiliation and viewpoints are not a protected class when there's so many other protected classes that they've added on at this point in history. And political affiliation, especially with one of the main two political parties in America, is not a protected class. It's not like even if I wanted to be part of some obscure party, that's my prerogative. I could do what I want. But the fact that your political affiliation with one of the two parties is problematic, it's crazy. It really is.
I think I had heard that in DC that it's that a political crime, like if it's a race crime or a hate crime, a crime against a person's politics in DC has its own class. I know in New York for sure it doesn't, because like when I went through what I went through in January with Antifa, I asked if because I knew they came after me for being a Trump supporter and physically assaulted me for being a Trump supporter, and because they shouted out like, don't protect her, she's a Nazi, she's a Trump supporter. So I mean, can't get more obvious than that. And so I was asking the district attorney about, is that considered like a because they attacked me because of my politics? And he said, no, it's not protected in New York. But when I was looking into DC, that I think that's one of the few places it supposedly is. But now we see exactly what's going on with the J6 prisoners.
Yeah, it's not, there's, if it is, they're not implementing that protection at all. And just going to circle back really quick about yes, they did do a big sweep of Facebook after this fake whistleblower. And it's similar to what they did on Twitter right after January 6th. Like everybody lost their account. So many people, and I lost so many followers. They literally just take it's like they do it as a form of torture. Every day you wake up and you lose like 200 followers that you worked so hard to get. And to gain a voice, to be able to tell people an alternate viewpoint. And actually not that alternate viewpoint, because most people believe in election integrity. But after January 6th, so many friends of mine were just knocked right off of Twitter, like literally lost their account, and Facebook as well. But it was really a big problem in January with Twitter. And now it's like, I feel like Facebook is really, it's just, they need to account for their sins. They really do. The technocracy, it's just, they're I don't know if it's big tech that's ruling the world or the government that's ruling big tech and filtering through them. I'm going to try to figure it out, but they've become like an arm of the government. Like literally, they're an arm of the government.
In Poland, the Polish government has taken the stance that it will sue Facebook for censorship of its people, and so the Polish government's taking a stand against it. It's something that I wish that would be happening here, but they seem to be in cahoots because they share the same same narrative.
Yeah, I mean, that's insane that Poland's doing that. That's why I'm actually, if I really wanted to, I could get Italian citizenship. Not that I really want to move, specifically to Italy, but then it gives you access to the whole European Union. I'm like, there has to be one country, I don't know if it's Poland or where, in the whole European Union that's going to be free one day, because I'm really starting to lose hope for America. I never lose complete hope, and I'm going to still keep fighting for what I believe is right. But it's just like, wow, if you can't go to America for freedom, then where do you go? It's like, I'm actually thinking about other countries that I could go to besides the United States where I could live as a free person, in the future, because it's getting so bad, especially here in New York with the crazy vaccine mandates and the leadership that we have here. It's just getting worse and worse and worse.
Can I ask you a question? Are you, I'm assuming I know the answer, but have you been vaccinated?
No.
So what is it like being in New York right now with the mandates and having to show your passport?
It's terrifying being in New York. You can't, see, I live on the borderline of the city. So I live in Long Island, where we don't need vaccine passports to get into restaurants. But anytime I go into the city, you need a vaccine passport. And they're very strict. And most of these restaurant owners don't even believe in this BS, but they have no choice to comply, because they send in these people, these undercovers, to go in without a vaccine passport and to try to bust these restaurants and find them. So they have no choice but to be really strict with asking for the passport. You can't join a gym in New York City without being vaccinated. You can't even work in New York City. I'm a trainer. I can't even work in New York City now without being vaccinated. That was my job prior. I was a fitness trainer. I used to train celebrities who, unfortunately, most of Hollywood is on board with this crazy vaccine bandwagon. They don't believe in personal choice. And it's again, so many people are losing their livelihoods over this just because they believe in personal choice. So it's really hard to live in New York. And we see it getting worse every day. It's not like it stops here. We have this new Governor Hochul. They got Cuomo out for a reason. He was a terrorizer, but she's even worse. So they got him out for a reason, as far as I'm concerned. Mayor de Blasio is a sick person, a very sick person. And now the firefighters today, right? Today is Friday, right? So today, firefighters, firefighters, police officers, sanitation workers, all have to be vaccinated, or they have to leave the job unpaid. And there's been rallies and rallies all over the city this week. It makes me teary-eyed and proud when I go and I film them, to see something that we started a year ago, where we had like 50 people protesting these mandates and this government overreach. Now you're seeing crowds of 10,000 people in New York City that are standing together. There was even a Black Lives Matter protest over the past weekend at Barclays Center against the vaccine mandate. So it's like so many people are fighting back, and it's really like beautiful thing to see. But I fear that, where were you guys a couple months ago? I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but before, when we knew this was happening, now it's upon us, right? So if they get through the firefighters and the cops and they vaccinate these, all these lines of men and women that don't want it, who are they coming for next? All right, they got them out of the way. And then next, it's going to be the regular citizen. You can't get a credit card without the vaccine, because they're going to probably put an order through the credit card companies, or, you can't get a paycheck, or you can't get health insurance. It's only a matter of time before they pull this. That's why I'm praying, and I've spoken to a lot of people from the firefighters unions and stuff, and they really want to hold the line. Like, they plan on totally holding the line, but the rock and the hard place they're stuck between is, if they don't go to work and they keep resisting the vaccine, who's going to put out the fires in New York City? Who's going to be their first responders when it comes to the police? So they're like really under they're like stuck between a rock and a hard place. But I really feel like they need to just hold the line, because the long-term effects of this, if New York goes, so does the rest of the world. I feel like if you save New York, you save the world. Because if it passes here, it's just going to keep passing in all these other liberal states across America. And eventually they're going to come for all of us.
Well, I think Florida and Texas are probably the two last, beacons of hope for this country right now.
Florida also has like the lowest corona rates.
Right.
They just published that, and there's no mandates.
It's probably because the sunlight out here, vitamin D is good for us. Also, the one thing I do want to say, DeSantis offered a $5,000 signing bonus to any police officer around the country that wants to move down here, be a police officer here, because in Florida, we've always supported the police. We back the blue. We don't want to defund the police out here. He claims that it's not about the vaccine mandates.
I don't know if there's a bad connection, but I can't really hear you guys for some reason.
Okay, we'll let Tara troubleshoot right now.
Test 1, test 2.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you. We can hear you loud and clear. Yeah, you're coming through fine for us. Somebody wrote COVID utopia.
But it's true. You have to be fighting when Cara was saying where were these people months ago when it first started? I think we lost Cara, so I'm going to kick this over to you.
Well, I'm going to talk to you guys now. Hey, guys, so welcome back to my channel. Hope you guys subscribe, like, comment, share, click the bell for notifications.
Hey, for some reason, my screen froze. Is it okay on you guys' end?
Cara's having a few technical difficulties, but I'm going to keep talking to you guys real quick. The one thing I find really interesting about New York, for example, last year in 2020, and this was across the country, actually, you had people that were standing up against the mask mandates. You guys remember this? And the nurses and the doctors were pissed off and said, by not wearing masks, you're making our jobs harder. But the same people that were standing up against the masks are the same people today standing up against the vaccines. And now those doctors and nurses are being fired. So it came full circle. Isn't that interesting, though? But even the nurses and doctors that were against the anti-maskers, because they said everyone should mask up and wear a mask. We were trying to tell them, if we allow mask mandates, then we're going to have vaccine mandates, then we're going to have passport mandates. And they didn't see it coming. Mm-hmm. And they must have been blindsided this year when they all got fired because they weren't getting vaccinated.
Absolutely. Cara, I was thinking how, you were saying, where were these people when the protests had first started? Because I remember going to the medical freedom rallies, and initially the numbers were not where I believe that they should be. And it's beautiful to see where they are now, but the droves of people should have been in the beginning, so it would have never gotten to the state. I remember thinking last year when I would see protests against the mask, and I would just think, what's the big deal about just wear a mask? It's not you don't need to protest it. But now I understand that it's the concept of it being mandated. It's not so much about wearing the mask or taking the vaccine. It's just making it a mandate, because it's stripping away our freedoms.
If you want to wear the mask, wear the mask. If you don't want to wear the mask, don't wear the mask. When people say that we don't want mask mandates, it doesn't mean we're banning masks. It just means we want to give you the choice. And if the masks
or you're not anti-mask. It's just let people make decisions for what's best for themselves.
And you want to wear one, then you're good.
Right.
I
mean, we foresaw this, the medical freedom groups and the liberty groups in New York, and everybody paints us, the news paints you as these tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorists, and people, like you said, say, oh, what's the big deal about a mask? But it was a precursor, it ushered in the vaccine.
Oh, I think we Cara froze back up again.
It's all right. We'll go back to the Ana Francisco show. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel.
Testing the masks strongly, and now, like you mentioned, I don't know. I missed a little bit of the conversation because we got cut off for a second. But I hope you guys could still hear me. I have no idea.
We can hear you now.
But it was frustrating that people weren't supporting our rallies. They didn't think this could ever happen in New York. We had reached out to a lot of the unions, the teachers unions, the firefighters unions, and everybody. And they really didn't want to get involved at that point in history because they didn't think that this was ever going to happen. And now it has, and it's too late, and it's very sad.
I think that people are
I'm not saying it's too late. I'm sorry. I take that back. I think it might be,
it's better,
the fight's going to be harder now.
Yeah, the fight is definitely going to be harder as opposed to if they had nipped it in the butt in the beginning. I think Americans are so used to their freedom, and it's this generation versus the next generation is it depends on what you grow up with. So we're seeing and experiencing the loss of freedom. So we know what it looked like and where it's transitioning to. So the next generation is just going to know it one way. Like in Australia, they're a lot of people are actually for the lockdowns and how though there's a lot of people against it, we can see it in the media. But when they're so complicit to what the government is doing to them, because their society is based on on asking for permission. You should never ask for your right, because in America, our rights come from God. It doesn't come from the government. And so with that belief that's what makes America exceptional, versus we don't need to ask for permission to exercise what is God given to us. Right. And other places you do.
Right. Yeah, well said.
Right. Sorry, guys, I keep getting cut off. I don't know why. Can you guys hear or see me?
Yeah, we can see you and hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know why I keep getting dropped off. So I didn't follow the last part of the conversation, but I heard what you last said, Tara. So sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Tara was just saying that we have God-given rights here in the United States, and that the government cannot be the ones to take away or give us the rights. And she's right. Think about these 4 or 5-year-old kids today. You know, I'll be honest, it really upsets me and makes me sick when I see a child wearing a mask in public outside. Like, it upsets me, because these children, like, they don't know what they're doing. They're doing whatever the parents tell them.
And they're going to grow up.
They're just growing up to it. And now that's going to be normal. It's going to be normal for them to just do whatever the government always asks and always comply. And I blame the people that comply on where we are today, because the reality is the majority of Americans, when the mask mandates came out, they complied. So the government realized we can do a little bit more. We can now do a little bit more.
Right,
we can now do vaccine mandates. And now we have to fight even harder to get things back on track. So these compliers, as I call them, sheeple, have made it bad for all of us. And I don't even think they've realized the damage they're doing.
Yeah, I don't think that they really, at least I know from my experience when I was thinking back about the mask mandate and not thinking it was a big deal, and now knowing what I know, it's about the bigger picture of what's going on.
Correct.
Right. You guys are putting it so beautifully. Like, I don't even feel like I have to say anything more, because it's so true. It was like a domino effect. It's like, first the mask. I felt it was a social experiment. Let's see how much we could get them to do. Let's see how many people we could get to put this like mask on their face and suffocate themselves. You know what I mean? When they're running on a treadmill, and just nonsensical stuff like that. And they're like, wow, these people will listen to anything. All right, now let's usher in the vaccine. And now all the people that are like saying, well, what's the big deal if the vaccine is good and it makes you safe? What the big deal is, you may want to get the vaccine, but keep in mind that just like the way that they ushered the vaccine in with the mask, what are they ushering in with this vaccine? Like, what could possibly be worse next is what I want to know. Like, what if there's a vaccine that kills people in 2 years, or that makes you infertile, which they're saying this one does, but what if there is one that's literally, doing something very horrible to you, but you accepted this one now as a mandate. So now in 2 years, what are they going to put through that you're going to have to accept because you accepted this vaccine as a mandate and not as something of choice?
Well, I'll say this. There was a meme that went around about CNN headlines. Did you guys see this about how the vaccine mandates the guidelines have constantly been changing? Originally, it said, one dose is going to protect you. No, actually, you're going to need double dose. Actually, over time, the vaccine efficacy starts to wane. Actually, if you're older and immunocompromised, it wanes even faster. Actually, you're going to need to have a third booster. Actually, some people are going to have a fourth booster. Actually, vaccines aren't going to be the way out of this. So the story keeps evolving, right? And to me, they don't know what they're doing. That's the bottom line. Because when you get something like the tetanus shot, there's a schedule that's accepted, and it's like, this is the science, boom, done. This is what everyone does. But with this one, it just seems to constantly keep changing over and over and over again. And to be clear, these current vaccines are safe, according to FDA and CDC and WHO.int. Now, there are some adverse side effects that are reported, but you have to understand that it could be a scaling problem since billions of doses were administered. So just to add some YouTube compliance to there. But you're absolutely right. If we allow these vaccine mandates to stand, what comes next? It has to be what you said earlier today. No vaccine, no banking.
I think it's going to a social credit score.
No banking.
They already have that in China.
No banking, can't buy food. Can't buy food, we starve you out. I mean, that's where this is kind of heading.
In
no medical care.
Right, yeah.
Medical care.
That's been happening in this country. A woman couldn't get a kidney transplant because she was unvaccinated.
That was in Colorado.
And
I remember that one.
liberals literally said it's justified. They literally on my Facebook were saying, well, because she's unvaccinated, she has a lower chance of living and surviving. Why would you waste a good kidney on that person?
They're very sick people.
They've dehumanized someone who needs a kidney as...
And that's part with like the political persecution is dehumanizing people of other opinions, so that way they can do whatever they do. Whoever's in charge can do whatever they want.
Right. And the pendulum swings. So you know what I mean? It's only a matter of time before someone on the left feels the brunt of this, and they're going to say, oh my God, how did this happen? And we're going to say, you know what? You should have listened when we're trying to tell you that this is all part of like the bigger, it's all part of the bigger picture. If somebody on the left was being censored and thrown in prison for something that I don't believe, was violent, I would be standing up for them too, because I know that if it could happen to them, it could happen to me. And I really believe that, if there was a Black Lives Matter or an Antifa person, if there was a pod of them in DC right now where they were not able to be bailed out of prison, where they were getting thrown in solitary confinement arbitrarily, where they were being forced to get a vaccination in this pod and just treated like domestic terrorists, and again, never been convicted of a crime, awaiting trial in 2 years, I'd have a real freaking problem with that. And I don't care if they were Antifa, and I wouldn't care if they were Black Lives Matter activists that, have protested our events in the past. I've made friends with a lot of them, to be honest. And even if I wasn't, anybody that's due process is being stripped in America, that's a threat to all of us. So it doesn't matter if it's your quote unquote enemy. Nobody here is enemies, but they're trying to paint us as we are. Yeah,
and we want free speech for everybody, even if it's political speech we don't agree with or ideologies we don't agree with. I want it for everybody. I think that we should have ability to have public discourse. Now, the one thing I find interesting is, Joe Biden and his lovely administration are doing everything in their power to get all of the Americans vaccinated, right? They're taking away our right to choose. But did you know that every Democrat voted against mandating vaccinations for migrants at the border? Did you guys hear about that?
I heard about that.
Not a single Democrat voted in favor of vaccinating migrants. So,
right, because they're probably saying it's crimes against humanity, all of a sudden when it has to do with that, that's what they're saying probably. Like, how could we force inject them? It's you know what I mean? But they'll do it with their own American citizens. So I find that to be mind boggling. Like, I can't even believe that that's true.
Yeah, we went from literally under Trump, we truly and literally went from America first to Americans last. And the people that can't see this, I don't know. I think that their monkey emoji where they're just like this, that little monkey guy. But this is absolutely out of control. The other thing is Joe Biden said he wants to be paying migrant families that were separated at the border. Did you hear about this? $450,000 per person to settle. Did you guys hear about this?
No.
That's what he wants to pay people that were separated under Trump's child separation policy at the border. $450,000. That instantly makes them the 1%. So we're living in a country now under Biden of truly America's last.
Rewarding people who break the law.
That's
and then punishing people who haven't because they have a different opinion.
So what do you think that does to future migrants that want to come here?
It will create the incentive.
That's what I'm saying.
100%. Cara, I want to bring us back to political persecution and your organization. What are some of the most shocking stories that you know of? You've been sorry, we lost Cara again. Hey, Cara. Welcome back.
Sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on with my internet right now. Maybe it's like, they're censoring it. Who knows? But it's like it keeps going down.
I would not be surprised.
We've heard of that happening where they just kind of keep booting you.
Yeah, I would not be surprised. So we actually intentionally now when we put our descriptions out there, we keep it blank and we just put the person's name because they will automatically censor certain parts of it what's
Although
the monetization?
We do have her name in the title, and she's already a targeted person. So,
yeah, no, my Citizens Against Political Persecution site, or the one that we created, got pulled off the internet right before the rally on the 18th. Yeah, like really, we somehow committed some crime just by standing up for prisoners' due process that they would feel so compelled to take it off the website, to take it off the internet.
Yep.
It was a lot of hard work to get back on.
Yep.
I want to ask you about, so I was also at that rally, I was streaming it, and what are your thoughts about how the media portrayed that rally to be? how I felt like it was so blown up that telling people not to come. I don't know. Like, what are your thoughts, Cara? Oh, Cara, did we lose you? Can you hear us? Oh, we did.
But there you go. There's an example. My follower, What's Up, says YouTube didn't notify me that you went live. I'm sure it was by design. If you were a cooking channel or BLM channel, I would have gotten multiple notifications. That's part of the shadow ban, and I've heard this from a lot of people. I've had people in my comments recently saying, "Where has your channel been? I thought you disappeared." Because you're not getting any notifications in the newsfeed anymore.
I get messages from subscribers saying that I didn't unsubscribe from you, and I went to look for you, and I saw that I was unsubscribed.
Yep.
Some people, it's happened like 2 or 3 times to the same individual.
This is why it's important, guys, that if you like our channel, you tell your friends to subscribe to us, because the only way that we can break the algorithm is through word of mouth offline. So,
right, and it's a real thing. Like, it's a real thing what they're doing. Like, I don't know if you guys know about the way that Judicial Watch had filed the Freedom of Information Act in the state of California. What it did was prove that the state government was giving these social media companies directives to censor people, and not, sometimes they try to not make it obvious where they just take you right off the internet. What they'll do is like exactly what you said. They'll make sure that your feed doesn't show up, that your notifications don't go out. There's plenty of ways that they censor you, so it's not obvious. And there was a stack of papers this thick of people that they had on this list, and some of them were just regular people that they felt were threatening. Maybe it was a minority conservative, a person of color that they feel like might be a future threat. One of my friends was on the list, and literally the government is telling social media who to censor and who not to. And there's a whole bunch of ways that they censor you. Like, they could demonetize you. They could make sure that you're
I think we lost Cara a little bit.
Yeah, so she's talking about the multiple tactics that they have to take our channels down. And she's absolutely right. I mean, think about this. I have 14,000 subscribers on my channel, and right now I have 14 people watching. That's 1% of 1% of 1%. That is a really, really small amount. And the reason why that's happening is because people aren't getting notified that I'm going live. And so, my dad always said to me, he goes, Adam, because as you guys know, I was adopted at birth. So I have a white family. And my dad said to me, you're probably going to be targeted because you're a Mexican Trump supporter. And they don't want...
You defy the narrative.
They don't want people to see that because... As of now, the mainstream media, the liberal media, they have this narrative that Trump supporters are white supremacists and white nationalists, right? That's kind of what they're trying to push, even though the Democrats are the KKK. We'll ignore that for now. So when you have someone like me, a Mexican Trump supporter who's decently well-spoken, not an angry person, I'm very kind to everybody that I meet on the street. You guys know that. They don't like it. They want to bury that. They want to hide that because they don't want society to be able to point to people like me, to Cara, she's, I believe, Chinese and Italian, or Tara, Filipina, Polish, because we're not what the Trump supporters are supposed to look like. And so that's why I think that we're probably being targeted right now.
Who knows if the last thing, what you say is so true, and it's such that whole white supremacy thing, like it's what they're doing right now to just usher in tyranny, using white supremacy as like this guise. And the last thing I posted on Facebook was, do I look like a white supremacist to you? It was an article that was in Breitbart. It's something I said at a rally. I'm like, I was a former Democrat. I'm a person of color. Like, I'm not a white supremacist. Like, I'm tired of this narrative that people that believe in freedom are white supremacists. And that was basically one of the last things I probably posted on Facebook. Who knows if that me saying I was not a white supremacist was problematic? But that was like literally one of the last, now that you said that, that just triggered a memory that the last article I posted up from Breitbart was me saying that I'm not a white supremacist, and I guess like that dispels their narrative. I mean, that doesn't go along with their narrative that anyone that believes in freedom of choice, and anybody that believes in some of the freedoms that we believe in are not like these like white people like they try to portray. It's just everybody really, and anybody that believes in freedom.
It's funny, for a while they tried to put you and Tara as white adjacent bucket. They tried to take away the Asian person status as a person of color.
Model minority myth.
The model minority myth. So they basically called you white adjacent. What the hell does that mean?
What the hell? I never even heard of that. That's so pathetic.
Also, multiracial white supremacy was a new term.
Multiracially white.
Multiracial white supremacy was a new term for those who are of a multiracial background, but they are deemed as a white supremacist.
Yeah, there's an article right here on includemedium.com, Project Include, we need to talk about what it means to be white adjacent in technology. So this is a real expression that they've been using to try to take away the Asians, person of color card, because you guys, Asian Americans, they break the narrative. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Tara, you've seen this before. If you sort income by ethnic group in the U.S., the top 10 ethnic groups are all of Asian descent, right? Like Taiwanese Americans, Japanese Americans, they make more than white Americans. And so for those people that want to say that America's a racist country, well, Asians kind of break that narrative, and they don't like that.
I think also for on the topic of censorship, like when I got my strike, I was covering a J6 justice rally, and there was really nothing in the stream itself that I felt violated community standards, but because I titled it Justice for J6, I think that's what, because they don't give you an explanation when they give you a strike for it. And so with Cara, with your platform, it's going to be very difficult to get the word out there from a social media perspective, because the media is running with a narrative of what happened on J6, and so you're looking to put the truth out there. How else are we going to be getting the truth out there when all these social media platforms are turning into those echo chambers and keeping the truth, our version, and additional facts and information for people to make decisions? Like, they're keeping that out.
I know it's difficult, but we're going to have to go back to word of mouth and finding alternate ways to do that. And I think that there's like this wide open door now for alternate ways, because so many people are being dismissed by social media that we all realize we have to figure out another way to get information across. And I think it's working. People are getting together and talking more. That's a great thing that comes out of this. It's forcing me to get out there and actually speak to people on the street and tell them stuff in person. And also finding our own channels, but also welcoming liberals onto our channels, not cutting them off, because we want to get our message across to them. We're trying to outreach. I'm trying to outreach to people who don't agree with me. People that agree with me, like, they already agree with me. So my message,
Well, I'll say this. That's probably why they don't want us on these social platforms, because right now what they're doing is they're polarizing platforms like Facebook. So if you take away our voice from that platform, then there's no way that we can change minds.
And they're stopping the discussion, as Cara was saying.
The challenges that we have to overcome.
Yep. There are such powerful... Tara and I went to see Ben Shapiro speak this week, and there was a girl who got to ask Ben Shapiro a question, and she basically said, Ben Shapiro, I want to thank you for opening my eyes. Like, she single-handedly gave Ben Shapiro credit. So I think that's the reason why places like Facebook censor people like you, Cara, if you can hear me. They censor people like you because they know that you can change minds, and they don't want you there because they don't want people's minds to be changed. So I think
they grow in the division.
Exactly.
If we were unified, they would have no power.
Exactly.
Did you guys hear my answer? I'm not sure, because I think I got cut off again. I'm so sorry.
You got cut off. So if you can recap, you always speak so beautifully too. So when we have these tech issues, I'm like, no.
So did I freeze kind of in between?
It just goes silent for a second.
You
and then
went silent.
Oh no!
No, don't worry about it. It's all good. But what I was saying was they don't want you on these platforms because people like you can change minds, and that's what Facebook is scared of.
That's what makes you a threat, and that's why they kicked you off of Facebook, because you're a threat to unifying people.
Look, I'm gonna tell you this: the people. I was a liberal until 2019. I was a Democrat liberal until 2019, right? And the channels that changed my mind were Officer Tatum.
Louder with Crowder.
Officer Tatum was for me, okay? And Ben Shapiro. And the reason why they changed my mind was whenever there was these police shootings in the news where the victim was black and the police officer was white, Officer Tatum said, hold on, time out, pause. Let's wait for the facts to come out before we jump to any conclusions. And just that alone, I was like, wow, like that actually makes sense. Like, why would you make it a race issue without knowing the facts? And that slowly red pilled me again to here we are today. Now I'm I guess a conservative YouTuber. I
mean, you have to go to independent sources. Like, you can't trust what the mainstream media is saying about anything. I mean, that's why I took to having a voice and having a platform.
That's right. For our audience member, Mojo Motive, can someone tell me who these two smart, beautiful women are? So on our channel, we call beautiful women chicas guapas. So please refer to them as chicas guapas moving forward. And we have Cara Castronuova, and we also have Tara from the Polish American Brotherhood. So follow them everywhere you possibly can. Two great women.
Cara, I'd like to ask you about, like, the lies of mainstream media and how the September rally that we were at in September for Look Ahead America, and how that was just presented so absurdly in mainstream,
right?
in mainstream media. What's your thoughts on that?
It's mental terror. They literally terrorized us. I was a co-host of that event, and all I got was calls from my family and friends telling me, please don't go. You're going to get thrown in jail. You might get psyop, like something horrible is going to happen to you. So the media, the leftist media, was telling everybody that it was going to be a January 6th part 2, which it was not. And I knew that. And then probably some CIA operative, I mean, not to sound crazy, but some operative, somebody passed through the right side media and all the podcasters that I talked to. Don't go. It's a psyop. It's a setup. You're going to wind up in DC prison. You're going to go to jail. Don't go. So it terrified literally people from going. So it was like this media smear campaign coming from both sides. And they're just so powerful. And then there was Nancy Pelosi telling everybody, don't go. Don't go to this free speech rally because if you do, you're supporting terrorism. Telling people not to go. So it was just coming from all angles.
Yeah. Do you remember, Tara, earlier last year, we both attended a DC rally. I forgot what month it was. It must have been
November.
What?
The first stop was Steel Rally in November.
Must have been November. People on my Facebook were spreading rumors that I was marching with Proud Boys. Do you remember that?
Yep.
And then I started getting DMs from everybody asking me if I was marching with the Proud Boys. And
that's because I was.
And yeah, because Tara was next to Proud Boys at a rally, so people assumed that I was marching with Proud Boys, and then it became the lies morphed into maybe he is a Proud Boy. So people were calling me a Proud Boy, and I'm like, I literally I was in bed in my hotel. I woke up to just a flood of comments and DMs and messages about me being a Proud Boy, and I was like, what the hell is going on? I'm literally waking up with my Yorkie and my Shih Tzu. Like the most innocent situation you could name, and I'm being called a Proud Boy. And so
Adam's very Disney.
Very Disney. I'm like,
that's my nickname for him, Disney.
Plus, I wasn't even in a frat in college, so to me joining like groups, I just don't do that. I like to be independent and do my own thing.
That's what the Proud Boys are. They're a fraternity of guys, Western,
exactly, and that's
Western
great.
And they protect people against Antifa.
Exactly, and I have great respect for what they do, and whatever. I have no issue with them. I know that the media lies and smears them, but that's not me. That's not who I am. So it's just very frustrating how the liberal left media and just people, liberals in general, they just jump to conclusions that lie to smear you and hurt you, and it's frustrating.
Absolutely. Cara, you had I was out of town in Poland at the time that there was an Ashley Babbitt gathering on her birthday. I know you spoke at that. Can you talk to us about that event?
Yeah, sure. It was a great event. I had the honor of getting to know her mom and her family. They're just beautiful people, and they went through a lot, obviously, and they're still going through a lot. And it was just to honor her life. So we got to meet her family and her close, people, her close associates, and just keep her name in in America's head, because they literally tried to cancel out her name and paint her as a domestic terrorist. And I told her mom, one day you're going to Google Ashley's name, and terrorist is not going to come up. What's going to come up was that she was a decorated war hero, and that she was, in my opinion, killed by a Capitol police officer unjustly.
Yep. Unfortunately, the victors write the narrative and write history. And as of now, I mean, look, we have 2022 to try to restore some common sense and decency back to this country with the red wave, and I think it's coming. I think 2022 we should have a great Republican turnout, and then come 2024, God willing, Trump will get back in office, or DeSantis, or somebody who's a fighter on the right side. And, we'll be able to start restoring history the way it was meant to be. And, maybe they could even pass a bill in Ashley Babbitt's name or something. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yeah.
They do it for George Floyd.
They did a George Floyd.
They do it for George Floyd. He gets statues.
Right, and Breonna Taylor and everybody else.
Gets,
it's a similar situation. They need to pass one for Ashley Babbitt. That's
correct. And I'd like to see a statue with her somewhere, because at the end of the day, she was... The thing that the media twisted around was a lot of these people weren't, quote unquote, doing an insurrection, because first of all, none of them have been charged with insurrection. Mm-hmm. they've been charged with like trespassing or attacking a police officer, which obviously I'm very against attacking police officer violence in general. But these patriots, a lot of them, they were standing up for what they believed in. They believed that they were standing up for the Constitution. And I believe that intent matters. I always say that, right? Intent matters. So rest in peace, Ashley Babbitt.
It matters in the law too. I mean, if your intention is to commit murder, there's a big difference between murder and the first, second, and manslaughter, and it has all to do with intention. Not that these crimes were anything close to that, but you're absolutely right. Nobody there intended that day for any of that stuff to happen. Right. You know, nobody, as far as I'm concerned.
It's like, take the Alec Baldwin shooting, for example. Like, obviously, I think that all could have been avoided with Alec Baldwin, based on everything I know about the story. It probably was an accidental misfire on Alec Baldwin. Should he have some kind of punishment? Maybe. I don't know. Let the courts decide that. But it would be as if the media just decided, you know what? We're just going to smear Alec Baldwin, say it was intentional, say he was a murderer, and just ruin his name.
And then also the principles that America is founded on is you're innocent until proven guilty. Other countries, you're guilty until proven innocent, or you're just guilty by being accused of being guilty. And that's what we don't want to lose in America, and that's the importance of standing up for the political prisoners of J6 and all political prisoners, because now everything's by mob justice, not by our legal recourse system. I mean, there are flaws in our legal system, but the concept of America is to move towards more perfection and to move towards progress. And I don't know, I see us backstepping unless we make America great again.
Yeah, and Cara, I mean, we all know that Derek Chauvin, I don't think, had a chance of getting a fair trial. I think Derek Chauvin was screwed before the trial ever happened, because people knew, the jurors knew what would happen to the cities if he wasn't found guilty across the board. Do you think Kyle Rittenhouse is going to have a fair shot at his upcoming trial?
Who? I'm sorry, you cut off for a second.
Oh, Kyle Rittenhouse, the Kenosha.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I hope he does. I try to stay hopeful. I don't believe the January 6th guys have a fair shot. Kyle Rittenhouse, no. I mean, like, it's called, it's the court of the media now. The court of the fake news. It's like whatever the fake news puts out is what people believe, and they don't even realize they're being lied to. So he probably doesn't have a fair shot at a trial. No. Yeah,
it's terrible. How can our audience help with your company, with your organization, CAP?
Please go to citizensapp.us, www.citizensapp.us. You can volunteer. We need volunteers, especially if you're a competent person in any skill whatsoever. There's so many people that contact us every day for help. We have so many investigations going on. If you're an investigator of any sort, or you have it inside you to want to look for the truth and you want to join our investigative team, please contact us. There's ways that you could donate if you don't have the time, to many different prisoners, to feed the January 6ers, or just to the organization in general for our operational expenses, which, keeping our website up and stuff like that. But the majority of the funds go to the January 6th defendants, and you could go on there for more information. You can follow me at Cara Castronuova right now on Twitter, and I'm on Telegram. I'm going to try to make more, build a bigger platform on there, and also on Instagram. And yeah, just reach out to me if you want to help out with any of this stuff. That would be great. And I wanted to tell you guys, too, I really want to put this into the universal mind. There was a second woman who was killed on January 6th. I'm not sure if you're aware of. Her name was Roseanne Boyland. Yep. And I'm trying to get the story out there that nobody talks about. She was beaten by a police officer, so she could have caused her death. And the police officer, this video of her beating her brutally. So a lot of people say that police officers caused her death, but the media has released in DC coroner that she died of a drug overdose, which is absolutely not true, and video doesn't lie. But the video's never been seen in mainstream media, so nobody knows her name, which is Roseanne Boyland. And you can find out more about that on my website as well. I'm the person who broke the story and put it out on Gateway Pundit. I identified the police officer, and me and my friend Gary McBride found the video of the actual brutal beating of Roseanne when she was laying there unconscious on the steps, bleeding from the nose and turning the color blue. And literally, it's amazing that the mainstream media hasn't reported this.
Well, I mean, I remember Philip Anderson was next to her.
Right.
Phil Anderson was in the video next to her. But the mainstream media, they went one step further. They said that Brian Sicknick died from a fire extinguisher.
Yeah.
And that story went all around. And what's crazy is people were messaging me like, look what you did. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I never even was close that day. I stayed so far away from the Capitol because I had my dogs with me. And we had heard that there was just not, a lot of stuff going on. So I didn't go anywhere near close. But people were literally messaging me, look what you did. And I'm like, yo, first of all, I doubt a Trump supporter would hit a police officer with a fire extinguisher. That seems to be very extreme. And then it turns out the next day they quietly released a correction going, actually, it looks like he had a stroke or something, based on the stress.
And people never acknowledge the correction.
And then they tried to blame the stress. Oh, but the stress from the January 6th caused that. And it's just like, you're just going to always find a way to make that day worse than it really was. I mean, they compare it to 9/11, which to me is a slap in the face for the almost 3,000 lives that were lost that day. You know what I'm saying? Because the only person that got killed that day was a Trump supporter.
And the only four Trump supporters, two of them, one of them definitely by police, which is Ashley Babbitt. Roseanne Boylan, we speculate by police, and there's video to substantiate that. And two gentlemen who mysteriously had heart attacks at a Trump rally. I've never heard of such a thing. Yet people were being hit in the head. There's video of a man getting hit in the head by a grenade and going down. There's another video of guys getting shot with rubber bullets. Another guy got thrown off the second floor by a police officer of the Capitol building. I'm suspicious that these deaths were not natural. But nobody's ever going to find that out. The Nancy Pelosi fake January 6th committee is bootleg, and it's not looking for anything to do except for demonize Trump supporters and politicize the whole event. And it's very tragic that they're doing that instead of looking into the deaths of these other Trump supporters that are really, in my opinion, still unaccounted for. No real investigation was ever done.
Well, I've noticed that the J6 commission that she wants has mostly faded away from the news cycle because it doesn't have much public support. When you do polls on the audience, Americans we want to move on from it. It's time to look forward at how can we fix the country on all the problems that exist today. I mean, think about how many crises we have today under Joe Biden that he's caused. Supply chain, labor shortage, border crisis, inflation, Afghanistan. What else am I missing? The COVID crisis. We've had more deaths this year from COVID under Biden with vaccines available than we did under Trump last year with no vaccines available. It's all very interesting stuff. So it's kind of like, why don't we start to focus on these issues at hand? Let's make progress here. Because I would love for Biden to excel. That's the bottom line. Because if Biden excels, we all excel. I'm not wishing Biden fails at his job, because that's kind of like cheering for your pilot to crash, right?
Yeah, for your boat to sink.
I want Biden to just focus. I want Kamala to step up, and I want these people doing their jobs that they were quote unquote elected to lead us. And I just feel like they're not.
Like Biden can't focus, and I'm not saying that to be mean. It's just very unfortunate. So hopefully his handlers or whoever's calling the shots could focus and do the right thing, because it's literally, it's sad. I have a dog that is literally senile, and I'm not even comparing Biden to my dog at all. But it's like when your mind is foggy, you just can't. That's all there is to it. It's over with for him. And I've never had a real problem per se with Joe Biden. I wanted Trump to win, but it wasn't like I hated Joe Biden on any level. I don't hate anybody, right? And you're right. We do want him to succeed. Maybe like 5-10 years ago, that would have been possible. But how is it possible now when he can't even get a sentence out? It's very sad. And I actually feel very bad for him. I'm a very sympathetic person. I have a lot of sympathy for Joe Biden right now, because I don't even think he knows what he's doing. I don't even think he does. I really don't. And that's very sad, because that's going to be his legacy. He's going to go down as hands down the worst president in America in history. By the end of the 4 years, if he makes it out, he is going to go down as the worst president that destroyed this country. And that is a fact.
What's crazy is, Tara, could you pull this link up real quick?
Mm-hmm.
So I started my Twitter apparently in 2012. I had a Twitter account, and I literally made like 3 posts, and then I never used it again. See if you can pull this up, Tara, real quick. This will all find entertaining. See if you could pull that link up. But this was from October 11th, 2012, so almost the 9-year anniversary. And I recently found this on a Twitter account that I no longer have access to. Scroll down past the photos, and then we're going to pull this up. I think you guys
look like a kid.
Yeah, I think you guys are going to have a laugh at this. Scroll under those photos. Yeah, that's going to be my ex look, she's my half Asian ex in that photo. And I have 2 half Asian girls on this channel. Look at that. I'm surrounded by half Asians here. All right, so scroll down. Scroll down. There you go. Hey, one more. Scroll down a little bit more. Past these search terms. Okay, there we go. The top one. Joe Biden. Do you see that?
No.
Scroll up a little bit. Up. We're almost there. There we go. This is what I wrote, October 11, 2012. Joe Biden is a guy you could have a beer with. Paul Ryan is the guy you want to punch after having a few beers. Hashtag Team Biden. I wrote that in 2012. Isn't that funny?
That's why we can't judge people on the words that they've used in the past.
But isn't that funny?
In the present.
No, but isn't that funny? Because this was during the debates that were happening. And I thought Joe Biden came off like a cool guy.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I voted for Hillary. No, I didn't. I'm sorry, I didn't. I was going to. I volunteered for Hillary Clinton's campaign, and then Trump won my heart when he said there was no weapons of mass destruction. And I was like, wow, I can't believe he just said that on a Republican stage. Like, this guy has balls of steel. Like, I freaking can't help but love this guy. Like, I became a total Trump supporter, but it was like fighting my inner instinct to want to, and I'm going to just call it out. I wanted a woman to be president. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, I just can't stand behind Hillary. After I got to really know what she stood for. But I initially was a volunteer on the Hillary Clinton campaign in Brooklyn in 2016 before I became a full-fledged Trump supporter.
Wow. Do you want him to come back in 2024?
I do. I just feel like at this point he's too good for it. I mean, they've screwed him so bad. They canceled the greatest president that this country ever saw, and that had the best interest of America in his heart, as far as I'm concerned, and that's why they hated him. I hope he could come back and win, and we could beat this, and that we find a way to get election integrity. Because without election integrity, it doesn't even matter. I hate to be like the pessimistic person, but everybody says Florida and Texas are the last two free states. But you know what? All it takes is a little discrepancy with election integrity, and they have Democrat governors in 2 seconds flat. You know what I mean? That's scary. Now, if there's no more Florida and there's no more Texas, where do we go? You know what I mean? People need to stop waiting until the actual election, and the result comes out unfavorably, and then they talk about why how the voting machines could have been rigged and this and that. This is stuff that needs to be talked about right now, and people need to be working on it behind the scenes right now, way before 2024, way before 2022. But it isn't until the actual election that people want election integrity and aren't fighting for the correct system to be put into place. So that's a real problem.
Absolutely. I mean, Florida's had its history of the hanging Chad ballots of West Palm. So, and with Governor DeSantis, he addressed the voting issues and it was pretty streamlined. What happened? I was expecting Florida to hold up the elections last time, because just given our history, but it was smooth, and that's true about election integrity. Is an issue that everybody should be on board about, because when you have half the nation not trusting the results, that's why we're having so much of the division now. And if we don't address it now, going forward, I mean, this is how communism is going to end up getting ushered in, and elections are going to be rigged. YouTube disclaimer, not that the last election was rigged. No,
Joe Biden won fair and square, guys, just to be very clear. The one thing... Oh, shit, I just lost my train of thought. I had a really good point that I was going to make.
I was going to say that the deep states, the pendulum swings. I mean, look, I thought George Bush wasn't the greatest president in the world. I do believe he was part of the deep state, and he was a Republican. And everybody was on, and then it goes to the Clintons, who it's it goes back and forth. It's what makes you think that they're not going to steal? The Republicans can't steal an election if this becomes the norm. If they get some president on the Republican side that isn't exactly the most doesn't have the country's best interests, or for lack of a better way of putting it. Not every Republican president has been the greatest. And then you're going to be crying election integrity, and it's going to be too late. It's the same thing with the vaccine and with the masks. It's it's unbelievable that people don't see that this could affect them very badly and their children and future generations when they continue to, steal elections, in my opinion.
Cara, do you think that you'd ever move down to Florida, or are you going to stay in New York and continue to fight peacefully and patriotically?
For now, I have family in New York, and I have to stay here and keep fighting. I grew up in New York. It's a magical city to me. It's a magical place. It's losing some of its luster, of course, but just seeing the people coming out and supporting these anti-mandate rallies has literally brought tears to my eyes. I'm like, oh my God. It's like watching your kid fighting back all of a sudden that was getting bullied in school. It's like, imagine you had a kid that was bullied in school, and all of a sudden you're watching them fight back. That's how I feel. Wow, the city's waking up. The sleeping giant is awakening. People are fighting back. I hope it's not too late, but I love New York. It's where I grew up. It's my home. I eventually do want to possibly get a second place maybe in Florida, but I just have too many ties to New York, and to Long Island, that I don't know if any time in the near future I could leave, but it does seem hopeless at times. It does.
And it's true. And when people say, oh, you don't like it, leave, that's not going to solve anything by having everybody leave like the point is people need to stay and fight for their area. That's because we don't want think tunnels to occur, because we need even with Trump's new social media, I hope that it's not just going to be conservatives and Republicans that go on it. Like, we need to be engaging in conversations with liberals and have every opinion represented, so we don't have just a single focus on otherwise, you know.
Echo chambers.
Echo chambers. That's the word I was looking for.
You said think tunnels?
Think tunnels. I don't know. I was making up. But yeah, we don't want to have echo chambers, because really it's the competition of ideas is what is going to give rise to the best and to American exceptionalism. Yep. And yeah, it's just this division that's continuing to keep people in power, and we need to keep fighting. So Cara, I'm with you. I'm glad that your family is grounding you in New York, because we need you in New York. We need you in New York fighting there. And with that, we both sincerely appreciate you taking this time to be on our podcast today. Do you have any last parting words of wisdom for our viewers?
Parting words of wisdom. I mean, I'd always say I'm a former champion boxer. Just keep fighting. And it's the times when I guess you feel like you're the most desperate and the most like at the rock bottom that you just got to keep going. And I really mean that from boxing. Like, when I was like, I remember I lost the fight badly, and like I came back and won the next fight so hard because I just learn from those mistakes. So learn from your mistakes, learn from the mistakes of the people around you, and just don't give up and don't stop fighting, especially if you're in a state like New York where people need you the most. So contact me anytime on Twitter right now, and on Instagram and on Telegram, and also citizensapp.us. You could write me there. I get the emails directly if you would like to volunteer and help out with these freedom movements. And yeah, please definitely reach out and contact us. It would mean a lot. More people, the better for this fight for freedom.
Awesome. Well said. Well, thank you so much, Cara. I really appreciate you being on our show. Hopefully we have you on again, because there's so many topics that Biden's going to give us to discuss.
Yeah, I didn't want to end this conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you guys check me out on Newsmax on Wise Guys at 10 p.m. on Saturday nights? I'm always supposed to say that. And I always, my mind is always on these political prisoners. I feel so bad for them, but I'm on a wonderful Newsmax show, and I love doing it. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of great people. We sit around and we talk about politics and give our unfiltered opinions on Saturday nights. That is Wise Guys on Newsmax.
Awesome. Great shout out. We'll put a link to that in the description of this as well. But again, Cara, thank you so much for joining us today. To all of our viewers, thank you for being here. And of course, you can find this podcast on TheTnAShow.com. That's where we're going to be storing all of our episodes. We're also available on Apple Podcasts. We're also available on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and you could always find the video version on Adam Francisco or Polish American Brotherhood. And yeah, we're excited to keep the show going, and it's all because of viewers like you. And don't forget, if you guys like these kind of channels, make sure you support it through Patreon or Super Chats or whatever you guys can do, because you guys basically fund us by the people. So thank you again, guys. We'll see you next time.